What is it that you had expected to hear from the RBI, from the governor, but wasn't there, which kind of is something that you would like to mention?
Very honestly, our own expectation was a 50 basis points, while the street expectation was a 35. The reason why we expected a 50 is that the labor markets in US are strong again. If you look at the wage increases that have happened as per the last data, the confidence in terms of the US Fed, even if they do a 50 the next time, to bring their interest rate hiking cycle to a halt, that is slightly questionable in my mind, and therefore the hiking cycle may be more extended in the US, and hence I did talk about the hiking cycle in India to be more extended. What a 50 could have done, in my opinion, however, is to bring ahead the intended hiking cycle, and the pause could have been seen earlier, which could have established a more certain atmosphere in terms of the businesses being able to take the right decisions. So that I think I was expecting to see, which did not happen. Probably the RBI lent towards the market bias of a 50 basis points in the US, and also to a certain extent at the margin, getting a little bit worried on the growth, with themselves having brought down the growth estimate to a 6.8 from a 7%.
Your first key takeaways in terms of the highlight of what you heard from the RBI, a 35 basis points hike was more or less penciled in. In fact, a BTTV poll had a majority of respondents hoping for a 25 basis points hike, and just 20 odd percent of the respondents had expected a 35 basis points hike, Indranil.
Yeah, so I think you have bulletized it quite well, any which ways, that inflation, the peak of it is beyond us, but we continue to need to be very cautious about how inflation pans out from here on. So two things are highlighted by the governor. One is the food prices. The food prices, definitely there is a seasonal effect in terms of the vegetables, and therefore the food inflation for the next reading could be lower, and inflation overall, the headline number could also be lower. Having said that, however, he points out that there are certain elements within the food also, which is specifically the cereals, which is the milk, etc., which continues to remain or see an upside. In one section, he also points out the weather changes globally and therefore the uncertainty with respect to food. But I think the more important take for me is how the RBI once again is willing to look at the core inflation and is indicating that there is a rather sustenance of core inflation, and hence there is a need for the RBI to maintain a stance of removing accommodation of monetary policy. I personally was hoping for a 50 in this policy. I understand that a lot of the market, or a majority of the market, was at a 25 to 35. And one of the critical reasons I was hoping for a 50 is I was not really, from my own estimates, seeing inflation coming below the 6% level before February, data that RBI would see sitting in March, and therefore the 35 basis points, in my opinion, increases the risk of a slightly longer rate hiking cycle than what was being earlier anticipated.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.